Hey guys, just finished watching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, Episode 1, Missing Pieces. Wow, what an episode. They've really nailed this show now that they're doing these kind of shorter seasons and they know what the storyline is going to be, and they're not having to connect so much with the the movies and stuff, which is kind of getting me disappointed and stuff. I'm going to get into this, but I kind of really wish that this show would kind of just, these are good seasons so far. It seems very good and stuff, but I keep getting the questions as to what does Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury thinks about this. He still knows about Coulson being alive type thing, or he knew about it from after Avengers 1 and stuff, and we haven't seen him since the first season. So it would be nice to kind of see him back to see as to him finding out as to the real Coulson being dead now and Mac being in charge. It would be really cool to see that, and this is why I'd love to see the next move the show and just port it over to the Disney streaming service once that's out, the Disney Plus, and give it a little bit more bigger budget, just so that you could have Samuel Jackson bringing the role on here. Now, I don't think this show needs $100 million budget like everything else, but bring it onto that show, you bring it onto there, then you could get Samuel Jackson to appear in here and that, and bridge his character, his stuff over, because I imagine that he does have a team of people with him, because every time we see him in these movies, we see Maria Hill with him, we see all kinds of characters like that, and it would be really cool to see him joining this show if this whole thing just moved to there. And then we could also see as to where Sharon Carter, what is she doing, what is she up to. We haven't seen her since Civil War, so it'd be really interesting to see as to where everyone else is there. We see that Fitz, is his ship kind of gets cut in half in this episode, so that was really cool. And then we jump to a year later, so it would be interesting if they put a time in there just so that we could know where this is. Is this because if this is a year later from where everything happens, and if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Loeb has said that this is all pre-snap since they didn't know what was going on in Endgame, and that's also what pisses me off about this show. How good this show is, it's just we want it to be in part of connecting to the movies, and everyone who's watching this show watches every single movie every time they come out in theaters. I would bet my life on that, that 95% of the people who are watching this show watch every single movie as soon as they're out in theaters. So to have someone watching this and have it not connected is just kind of, it's disappointing. So I'd like to see that happen, and whenever they do that and having all these other shows which are going to star characters who were in the movies, it would be awesome to bring this to the side there too. So we see that this episode was directed by Clark Gregg, which is really interesting, really cool seeing that. We see Daisy and Simmons are kind of out looking for Fitz and stuff, since he kind of died last season, but he's still, a version of him is still, frozen in space, floating around. So they got to go find that, right? That was really cool. And we see that some dimensions are opening up type thing, and people are coming across. So that was really interesting seeing that. And then we find out that Mac actually closed the door on Yo-Yo emotionally, and she's kind of moved on with another recruit or whatever type thing, but yet they're keeping it hush-hush, and May's starting to see bits and pieces of that, so that'll be okay to see where things go with that, but as long as they don't dive too much onto that, right, it would be cool. We see that Fitz, finally, he's not in his pod. Fitz and Daisy and all them, the four of them, they find the pod, but there's no one inside. I think that was really interesting there. And then she finds some coordinates on there, and they're all debating whether or not to go after there because they're running out of fuel. They got to go back home and stuff. There are only four of them and stuff, and I think that's really interesting. And they get spotted by a ship and stuff, and they're forced to jump away to get away from the ship, but Simmons makes them jump to wherever Fitz is type thing, or wherever they think Fitz is based on some inscriptions inside of the pod. So I think that's really interesting there. And we see that Surge is a lookalike for Coulson, so he was the guy in that clip that was released out there for the trailer for the show, and I think that was really interesting. And I think they mentioned it once or twice in the beginning of the episode, but I got it actually from IMDb, so I think that'll be interesting to see whoever that is, and it'll be quite interesting to find that out. And we see that Fitz at the end of the episode kind of inject himself with something and his eyes change. So I think it's going to be interesting to see as to where things are going with that. I assume it looks like he's trying to kind of hide his identity as being a human type thing, and he's just trying to blend in and not being a human, since he might know a little bit that in the future, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens with all this Fitz, because he's not the one who hasn't married. He didn't marry Simmons, although he probably would want to and all that stuff, but I think it's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go with that. He's not the one who kind of tortured, Sky or Daisy and forcing her to get her powers back. So I think that's going to be interesting to see as to where things kind of go as to what's left once they do find him. If hopefully that's not the whole season, but we'll have to wait and see as to where things go. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to see as to how this season plays out, especially since before this season even aired, they renewed it for a season 7. So is that again Marvel or Disney coming from above over ABC's head and saying, hey, yeah, you got to keep this going. You cannot cancel this, right? That would make sense. But then again, how are things going to work out with that? So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see is the show, did the season 6, did the people involved at ABC love the show so much and loved the way it was done that they were like, yeah, let's just get another one of this right away. And they're already filming as we speak, or they already have started, or if not finished, season 7 already. So I think that could be interesting with that. We'll have to wait and see as to where things go with this, but I think it could be really interesting to see as to where things go. But I would hate for this later on, like season 9 or whatever, and even with season 8 does finally premiere, if that ends up being one of the only Marvel live action shows in the MCU that is not connected to the MCU, but then you have Scarlet Witch and Vision, Winter Soldier and Falcon, and all these shows like that are super connected to the movies, but this one's just sitting there not having connections to the movies, not allowed to do anything. So I think that would be kind of disappointing, and I'd love to see them, be able to move this to the Disney Streaming Plus, but I have a feeling if Disney is saying keep this on, they might want it on TV so that it's out there prime time, in people's faces. Advertisements are there, keeping the Marvel brand in people's minds all the time, right? But we'll just have to wait and see as to where things go with this. So all in all, so far for this season, I like the way things are going. But the fact that it's disconnected and the writers don't know what's going on in the movies, or don't know how the movies would affect them, and are not able to put those into the seasons, that pisses me off. So we're gonna get this season, and we're probably gonna get season 7, which is still gonna be pre-Infinity War, because they had no idea what was gonna happen in either of those when filming them. They might be, they might have an idea, but they didn't know about the 5-year time jump in an Endgame. So I think that's really going to be piss me off for the next bit for this show. But I think so far on its own, it seems okay. It seems like a fun thing, but it's just the MCU connection is what's starting to piss me off for this show. So let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?